On October 23, 2013, California State Assembly member from District 22, Kevin Mullin, and San Mateo County Supervisor Warren Slocum hosted the first annual Connect13 conference at YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California. Strengthening communities through social media was the theme, bringing together social media experts and San Mateo County attendees from business, public, and government sectors to discuss the opportunities and challenges of using social media to communicate, collaborate, legislate, and participate. Peninsula Television is proud to bring you this conference, and all of the segments are available on YouTube and at www.pentv.tv/Connect13.
Generational divide, 9 to 5 versus now. And the leader of this panel is Mr. John Walton, and his bio in my notes here goes on for 3 pages, and I've taken the liberty to edit this down to just a minute or two, John. I hope you won't be offended. The thing I like about John as the new CIO in San Mateo County is that basically we never talk on the telephone, we text one another, and he responds quickly and is always there for me. And in fact, you might want to know that we had one of the panelists, actually a couple people, that were supposed to be on the panel that were called away to business in England at the spur of the moment and couldn't be here. And actually, yesterday afternoon, I think it was, I texted John and said, "Help, we need a couple of panelists." He responded, "I'm on it." And he was just coincidentally going to a meeting in San Francisco, and he was very kind enough to fill in the gaps for us. And so that's the kind of person, just a little inside story, that's the kind of person that John Walton is. In order to understand the impact of social media, we need to understand those that especially use the technology, the groups that were spoken about earlier on the panels. But it's sort of interesting that that group, 18 to 34-year-olds, are obviously younger than us, and we in government just tend to be a little bit older and a little bit perhaps technologically slower to adapt some of these technologies. John Walton started his professional career in computer technology, working on international engineering projects involving programming, seismic risk modeling, that's interesting, and visual simulation. He led the implementation efforts of a large city customer service center processing over 1 million calls per year, and worked with the governor's office in Alaska to establish a statewide technology governance process. He served as the chief information officer for the city and county of San Francisco, and actually worked for mayors Newsom and Lee. As I said, he joined the county. That was in 2012, and he is our Chief Information Officer. And he's doing amazing things for us in San Mateo County as he leads the efforts really to modernize the technology that we use in San Mateo County and improve operational services. And he's really launched a lot of new government initiatives. One of the things I'm most proud of is the Open Data Initiative, Open Checkbook, and performance indicators on the web, which I would invite your attention to. Maybe John will speak about that. But he has 23 years of experience in the technology field, and we're just really fortunate in San Mateo County to have a person of his caliber as our Chief Information Officer. And I'm going to call John up now, and he's going to introduce the members of the next panel for you. John, thank you so much for coming.
Should we just go up?
Warren's too kind. It's really my pleasure to be here today and to be talking with all of you. And first, I'd like to invite the panel to come up. We have some great folks here. I'll introduce them as they walk on the stage. Ron Vison, the Director for Media and Marketing and Technology. He's the Director for all things web, all things SFG TV for San Francisco, and has been the Press Secretary for several mayors, including formerly Mayor Brown, before he came to work for the Department of Technology. Is in charge of all the internet and TV, I think I mentioned, and does a lot of the, probably the leader in San Francisco Francisco for Twitter, Facebook, every type of social media analytics you can think of, and has been written up in a lot of papers and is on YouTube quite a bit if you want to go search for him on YouTube and see some of his videos where he talks about social media. So I'm happy he was able to fill in at the last moment today. He's a real pinch hitter for us, so thanks for being here, Ron. Asia Bettencourt-McCarthy is the voice, the Siri of San Mateo County now. We're just embarking on our journey with social media in San Mateo County. So she's here to talk to us about that continuum and what that looks like for a government that's just starting out, that's just starting, getting their feet wet. We have people like Warren, who's on one end of the spectrum, who's been using social media for a long time. Just an interesting tidbit, when I joined San Mateo 9 months ago, we actually had a policy we banned or didn't allow employees to access Facebook and Twitter accounts. And so it's been a real change in the last few months as we've started to try to really embrace social media and what that means to our government. And then Jack, come on up. Jack is from the Code for America, one of our great partners. Jack Madans is a... Jack, how would you describe your position? I read your bio, and like everything millennial now, it's very obtuse to an old timer like me. So how do you describe your role for Code for America?
Wait, is this being taped? This has been taped?
We'll erase it later. We'll edit it.
I am the government partnerships manager, but oftentimes I would more describe myself as the shit umbrella that kind of protects a lot of our technical talent from some of the bad stuff.
So Jack is between me and his staff, is what he's saying. So, so thanks for being here, all of you. I really appreciate it. I want to make this perhaps as interactive as we can. We've heard a lot about different tools people are using, what people are doing now in terms of Facebook and Twitter, and a lot of you are probably already using those tools. But I want to start off with maybe Ron just telling us a couple stories about what it's really like in the trenches to be a mature government organization using social media tools, having this community expectation of that 24/7 responsiveness for government, and what it means in the real world when it goes from the social media 24/7 to things that happen where you as the face or as the voice of San Francisco as the director for social media for the city. What's that look like in the real world?
Well, we embarked on this journey back in 2008. We were pretty much early adopters. Part of that was because of our leadership. We had a mayor who is now a lieutenant governor, Gavin Newsom, who is very tech savvy. And we also were going through the ranks of actually upgrading our websites and things of that nature. But our goal was just to get more people engaged, more people more civically involved, other than those 20 people that coded in meetings every week, and it's the same gadflies that show up and you hear from the same voices. We were trying to get another demographic as it relates to government services. So we were very early in that process. And what we found that this is where the people were going. So as much as we want to drive the traffic to our websites, we actually said, well, hey, look, we have these platforms that, number one, is free, because especially during that time, it was an economic downturn. We were losing staff. We had to do more with less. So now we had these platforms such as Twitter that the mayor was using at the time, and Facebook. And so, we basically we said, we're going to go and we're going to use these websites, because we had to face it. Most people that are going to our traditional websites are people who are not very happy because they're getting online to pay their parking tickets, or they're paying, but that's pretty much it. It's normally not a good experience. So we're able to use these platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and now Pinterest and Instagram. We're using it, and we've gotten more people engaged. Part of the challenge is how do we our policymakers, and I'm glad to see that there are many politicians here and policymakers here in the room, because it really comes from the top down. So we have been successful in getting more people engaged, getting more people involved with the civic process, being able to listen, and now we're now in San Francisco, we're actually monitoring and engaging people. And we're doing it, we have tools now that we use that we can monitor chatter, we can monitor activity that goes on in the city, whether it was the BART strike that just happened. We had systems going, so we know exactly the experience of a BART rider, or lack thereof, the last few days because it was on strike. But those are the kind of things that we were able to do. It does take some resources, obviously, but a lot of the resources that I've been using, and we have about 60+ departments, and more than half of them each have their own accounts. We're seeing content is the most important thing. When we first had our page, 300,000 people, And then it's just like when my personal Facebook page, I'm talking to friends of mine that I haven't seen since kindergarten, and that's when I only had 200 friends, and now when you have 2,000 friends, you can't, you don't get to talk to anyone anymore. It's a lot of noise. And the same thing with our official city and county page. It's hard to get the content out because people are so bombarded with that content. So now we're looking at making sure that the content is relevant and the information that we get out, like the video showed earlier, people want instant gratification. They want their news right away. And when it comes from the city and county of San Francisco, it is the official word. So when we do have the BART strike and we do send things out, they can see it, and we try to get up there as soon as, if the information is readily available. And many times it's before the news cycle. There really is no such thing as really a news cycle. People want that tweet. So that's how we've been very effective. We actually, from the Facebook page, and we actually work with Code for America on, you don't have to leave Facebook. You can actually put in service requests while you're on Twitter. You don't have to leave. You don't have to go to the website, and you don't have to call 311. So you can tweet that into the call center. So we did all of those kind of things, and Code for America makes it readily available for other cities to use, so you don't have to start from scratch. So, and we've had a lot, BART strike, we had this little unfortunate plane crash that happened. Asiana went down, and it was a Saturday morning at about 11:15 because I was on my way up to a friend's 40th birthday party, and then everything just hit. And the interesting thing about Asiana was that the website, the SFO's website went down. So the only way people were getting information was through Twitter, coming from the officials. So, and we were able to see firsthand, even people that were on the plane, what they were seeing. And that it's just mind-boggling what you can get from these pages. And you set it, your topic profiles as such. And so when it comes to just public safety, transportation is a big one that people want content. They want to know about how they're going to be able to get home, how their kids are going to go to school, and also, of course, cultural events and things of that nature. So we're now at the next level of engaging these people, engaging the people who we call influencers, whether it's environmental issues, whether it's transportation issues, whether it's people who love dogs, and they love dogs in San Francisco. There's more dogs than our kids in San Francisco, so you cannot mess with folks' dogs. And so, and we engage them. And there's ways and tools that are now available that we can get people more civically engaged. We're not driven by, like, our drivers, obviously not, how many car sales, or we're not Coca-Cola trying to sell Cokes, and we're trying to get more people involved with the city process and getting them more engaged. And that's our return on the investment.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, so Asia, that's what it's like since you've been doing it since 2008, and you've had people pushing all the time. We need to do more of this. Okay, so you came to work with us in San Mateo. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into social media, and what you see now, what you thought you were going to see coming into a government like San Mateo County or any other government, and what you've learned and where you see us going in the future.
Thank you. So I fell into social media sort of by accident. I was finishing up with a master's degree in library studies, doing outreach, and took a couple courses on social media outreach and reaching out to the community that way, and then landed in San Mateo County. And when I started, the county was just really at the forefront in terms of their own use of social media, not like at the forefront the way San Francisco was. John Walton had just come and opened up social media in the county, and so we were really exploring and kind of seeing where we wanted to go. And since that time, we launched our County of San Mateo Facebook page and are currently using Mind Mixer. I know San Francisco uses that as well to get community feedback on issues that are important to the board and to the county. And we've also been exploring other platforms. But one thing that we sort of have realized as we've gotten our feet wet is that having a strong strategy is really important in terms of moving forward in a way that's cohesive and that we present a coherent voice to our constituents. So right now I'm working with our boards and commissions, nonprofit organizations, residents, to get a sense of what they would like to see from us as a county and what they would like to see from our social media presences, and then drafting a strategy that will incorporate kind of where we're going in terms of platforms, but also where we want to go in terms of message. And I think one thing that we would like to do is move more towards San Francisco, away from simply informing our constituents towards engaging in a dialogue and potentially even a collaborative relationship where some of our residents are inspiring what we're doing moving forward and we're working together in a partnership. So that's kind of the dream. Right now, we're still working on just getting the information out in a way that's more clear, and also collecting information from our residents through surveys and sort of a kind of a lower engagement, but also lower risk methods. So I think for those of you who are not currently on social media or who are just starting or thinking about starting implementing social media in your government organization or in your nonprofit, I think don't be intimidated. It's not as hard as or scary as it may seem. And I think there's kind of a pathway or some different steps that you can take. You know, start out with being informational, and then you can kind of engage more deeply as you become comfortable with the platform or comfortable with the media, or if you bring on new staff to deal with it, then you can kind of up your levels of engagement over time. And if you have a strong plan, it should be easy for you to do that. So that's a little bit about where we are now and where we're headed.
Great. So Jack, Asia was talking about, that continuum and what it looks like. And one thing I remember working with Code for America when we were in San Francisco, and now working with you all in San Mateo, one of the strengths I saw for Code for America is really being that facilitator between the public and government, right? Because it's, we talk about the 9 to 5 versus now, and social media is just a tool. And like Asia said, sometimes it can start out just by a one-way communication, but it's really about engagement, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, that's the key word. And engagement isn't 9 to 5. Engagement is 24/7. Mm-hmm. And whether you see it through social media tools or whether you see it through things Code for America does with other government organizations. So you have a national perspective, frankly now international perspective, mm-hmm. on how this trend is going, with how do you get the public engaged and really working together with government in that around-the-clock 24/7, whether it's social media tools or other means. How do you see that working? How do you see that transition happening?
Yeah. First off, it's great to be here. I hadn't had my coffee this morning when I kind of the cab dropped me off, and I was like, I'm going to a government social media conference at YouTube. And I was like, it is so 2013, I can't even stand it. So it's great to be here. To address some of the questions that John asked, I just want to give you, by way of introduction, for those of you in the room who don't know what Code for America is, we're essentially a service organization. We're a nonprofit that only started 3 years ago. We're most known for our fellowship that recruits computer developers, designers, and data scientists to leave their job in the tech industry and be embedded within city government and work with them on both identifying a problem and creating a piece of technology before that year is out. And it's awesome to be on stage with both two of our current partners, both San Francisco and San Mateo. We've both done amazing work this year that we were just showing off last week at our annual conference in San Francisco. And really the goal there is to kind of re-envision what is a local government that is for the people, by the people, in the 21st century look like. And so I think that I'm not going to be able to do justice to all the questions that John asked or have all the answers for you, because obviously you guys know a lot more about this stuff than I do. But a few basic ideas I think I can orient you guys around is, one is government as a platform. And what does that mean? And so Tim O'Reilly has this great phrase. He's a book publisher and kind of one of the godfathers of our movement, where he basically talks about the way that citizens traditionally interact with government is very much like trying to get a candy bar out of a vending machine. And you go up, you're like, B12, Snickers bar. That's mine. I want it. And you put your money in, and then you have to crinkle the dollar. You have to straighten it out against the machine. It doesn't take your money. Maybe it takes your money and doesn't even give you the candy bar. And so what happens then? Citizen/customer starts shaking the vending machine, right? And we say, if we can just shake it hard enough, I'll get my candy bar. Or there's this idea that if I shake it hard enough, I'll get all the candy bars. which is just a broken model, and it doesn't work. And it's what's lent ourselves to the systems that we see up and down in government, both at the federal level, at the state level, and the local level, which is that is not going to work anymore. There's simply far too much that people are asking you guys to do than you have the time or capacity to do it. And so that's why we have to, instead of looking at government as a vending machine, we need to look at it as the thing it originally was, which is the thing that we all can do together. And I think that what technology has allowed us in the past 10, 15 years is to make that proposition real and create these micro interactions where people actually can co-create what that means, whether that is with a piece of authentic feedback that they don't have to go to a 2-hour-long public meeting when they need to be cooking their kids' dinner is happening. It's a range of what we like to see as developers and designers kind of being there to help you guys design those interactions. It's being able to give feedback. There's this wonderful application we made this year called StreetMix that immediately comes to mind, which basically is dead simple. You go to the website, you guys can go to streetmix.net, and you can actually just widen the street, thin the street, add a tree, add a subway, add whatever you want. And really it's about, giving people a sense of ownership. That's what I'll talk about a little bit later. The second one is more granularly kind of the fuel for what government as a platform is open data. And I really didn't understand what open data meant, and it might sound like a very scary prospect for those of you that run these organizations and that manage this data every day. And it's just as data is across every sector, as in government, that it is imperfect, and it can feel a little bit, it can be kind of vulnerable to share this out there. But the open data as both, so social media I think is up here as a layer, and the more that you guys can engage with that, the better. And the more you can give a sense for the responses that people want, the better. We see open data as a way to deepen that sense of engagement. A really good example might be, for me, my kind of conversion experience with open data was in Oakland. I live in Oakland, and a lot of times there's a really big, fraught, tenuous conversation about public safety. And people don't feel safe. And you see that all over Facebook, all over Twitter, says the streets aren't safe. This is like the perennial thing that parent X is saying, the streets aren't safe for my kid. And what open data allows is there was a thing called crime spotting built by our now CTO, Mike Migursky, that basically lets you see a map of all the crime reports in the city. And so that means it basically changes the conversation from a very vitriolic, very anecdotal, the streets aren't safe, to actually being able to go to a public meeting armed with the knowledge that this street isn't safe at this and this time. And so it actually levels the playing field for that conversation. So very general, but those are just two basically the core ideas I think you'll hear me coming back to, and you'll see what our Code for America fellows know. I hope I can show you more about some of the projects we've worked on, especially the one in San Mateo.
So I have to do a time check, and I apologize. We are the only thing standing between you and I'm sure a lovely lunch that YouTube and Google and the hosts here have put on for you. So I want to respect that, and I want to keep you, because there's a lot of other great presentations today. But we do have about 15 minutes. Now, I have a lot of questions for this panel. I could go on and on for an hour, because these people really are the rock stars of where we're going in government, how we're using social media. But I can talk to them anytime, right? They have to take my text messages. They're all very kind to be here. So I can reach them, but I'm concerned that you can't. And this might be your only time. You might be shy, and you might not want to email them later, connect with them on LinkedIn or something. So are there questions you all have in the next 15 minutes? Because I'd like to make it interactive. So I can walk around with I'm going to start at the front just because I'm lazy and I don't want to run all the way to the back. I'll work my way towards the back, but please.
Oh, so this question's for San Francisco. I know you've done a lot of groundbreaking work with the Neighborhood Empowerment Network. Mm-hmm. How do you meld the city strategy with that more kind of hyper-local, grassroots empowerment effort?
The Neighborhood Empowerment Network is a nonprofit organization that was built out of one of our departments, actually, in the city administrator's office. And it basically gets people from all over San Francisco and kind of gets them really involved with not just issues in each individual silos of neighborhoods, because that's kind of what happens a lot. Like you mentioned Oakland. So and actually Oakland is a very, very, very beautiful city, and every time I go there, it's amazing like Like, why are you? It's when you see the papers, it's all about the crime stuff, and it's so much more than that. But
It's to keep everyone else away.
that's right. It's the best kept secret in the Bay. But things like the Neighborhood Empowerment Network, they start organically, and a lot of the activity does happen through your platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And what we found, like with SF.gov, we're kind of more global, like as far as the content we have, and same thing with Twitter. We kind of cut every 60 plus departments with our content, but on the Facebook page for NEN, which is what they call it, they actually have a lot more dialogue. They can organically, they have these discussions, they have these meetings, they have these community awards each year. And I think it's brilliant. And I think what drives that and what makes that more accessible to people are platforms, social media platforms. Because people can, during their time, they can go, but they said 40% of the people are on Facebook every day. So I think that it's something that it's part of what you do. It's kind of like I brush my teeth in the morning, I get on Twitter and Facebook. I actually get on Twitter and Facebook before I brush my teeth. Don't tell anyone. But those are the kind of things. And so things like that, I think that social media makes those kind of small organizations, because it's fairly new, strive and become something that's relevant in our city, yeah.
Thank you. My question is actually very kindergarten, the first step. And that is, I understand that you want to build the website, the Twitter info, and to get the information out there. How do you engage the constituents? Do they have to have a Twitter account to follow you? How do you encourage them to even to sign up for an account to follow you? So I would like you to at least share that experience with us, how you engage them in that initial steps, especially with the privacy issues. A lot of people are very distrusting and would not want to go on to the privacy setting to update it every time when there is a new update from the apps.
Oh, thanks. I think one thing that we've tried to keep in mind is that social media is not the savior of public engagement. It's just one tool in a toolbox that you can use. So we do have folks in our county who are not comfortable using computers or are not comfortable using social media or choose not to. And that's why I think it's important to, when you're developing a social media strategy, to think about how your social media is going to interact with a host of other tools, your email updates, your newsletters, your physical signage, your website. And really, instead of seeing it as the kind of the savior or the golden ticket, see it as a way of reaching your audience where they are. So your audience that likes to be on Facebook, you can catch them on Facebook. You might have an audience that prefers Google+, that's their social network. You can reach them there as well. And so you're really providing people more options. And I think, especially with the millennial generation that the folks were talking about earlier, there's a growing expectation that, you don't need to leave the platform that you like in order to interact with your government and become engaged. And I think thinking about it that way, you're not going to reach everyone with one platform, but if you kind of spread out across platforms and use other non-social media tools as well to supplement, then you're going to be reaching a wider segment of your population than you would without the social media.
Again, this is probably a very rudimentary question, and if so, I apologize. But if you are from a smaller agency or city that doesn't have, maybe it's not a luxury, certainly in this group, but I think we still look at a little bit as a luxury. You don't have a director of marketing and technology, and you don't have someone who's devoted to this enterprise and this activity, and they're basically carving time out of an already extraordinarily packed agenda on a daily basis. How do you just get the initial steps going to create the justification and the availability to make this happen? And I guess maybe, Asia, you've been doing this recently, but this is for all of you.
Well, I mean, it wasn't easy. I mean, I think it's still a hard sell. I mean, as much as people think that San Francisco, that everyone is on board, but I tell you, every budget every year, I'm fighting for positions, I'm fighting for staff, I'm fighting for why, and telling the story why this is important, why are we getting a new demographic, and we cross-promote. We're actually driving more people to our websites now because of these social media channels to content that's actually very, very relevant, because they see it first on Twitter or they see it first on Facebook. So people are actually, and once you get them to Rec and Park Department, on their website, people now, oh, hey, I didn't know Rec and Park did this, or I didn't know that they could do it. So a lot of it is an extension of what your resources that you already have. A lot of departments have PIOs, public information officers, or spokespeople. This was just kind of another, just kind of, we all have to do more with less, but this is kind of another function of what they can do, because they are the content people. So you need buy-in from the policymakers, because they know it from a campaign standpoint, why it's important. But for why is it important for in a city, an official city business, why is that important, And that's where content becomes very, very important. So a lot of the things that you're already doing, you just add that. And, quite frankly, we have it set up where we post on Facebook, it automatically gets tweeted out. So I don't have to go to 2 different places. So that cuts half the time. And the other thing is, we actually cross-promote. So we actually, on our main page, we have a social media center. And it'll show you, it populates every one of our 60+ departments who have a Twitter account. And you click on it and you want to follow them, it's that easy. And the same thing for YouTube, for all our YouTube channels, as well as Facebook. Because those are the main ones. Because you can't spread yourself thin. We got on Pinterest earlier this year, and I'm like, oh God, another platform, right? And I'm like, wait, this is actually very, very cool, because the demographic is more female, and we started, and then the Giants were winning, and we had these pictures of these guys in their uniforms, and they started, we would post these things, and the women loved it, and they were sharing it. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And as well as, amazing pictures of our city, and people were actually starting to share pictures or post pin things that are on our website, and it's fun. So everything doesn't have to be hardcore. We want you to come to this meeting because you don't like this particular development that's going along the waterfront, But it can be fun. Government can be fun, and it can be a part of everyone's daily life as if you have great content. So back to your question, don't be scared, because especially when you cross promote, and you already have the people. You have email addresses. You have listservs. You have a lot of information. So you just have to get that and get the folks start following you and make sure your content is relevant.
I would say, too, just really quickly, I think identifying the champions within your organization, there are people, I'm sure, in all of your organizations who get home at night and are on Facebook, on Google+, on Twitter. They're out there. And I think if you can find those people and tap into that passion, it's a lot easier to get some of these great things done.
One other thing, what agency do you work for? Got it.
We're a town of about 11,000 people.
So this is the hypothetical smaller agency. Got it.
I'm speaking only for myself.
Yeah.
But I am interested.
So I think there's just 2 things I would add here. One is that we want to make sure that there's not a gratuitous amount of engagement, meaning just to say hello is nice, but people are going to get kind of tired of that quickly. So that means that if you look at your existing, public relational duties and strategies, how can you think about it differently or from a more crowdsourcing perspective? Where could you be asking the community for help? So, in fact, for instance, just to address kind of the subject of this panel is I think one of the differences between the generational divide is that when I need something, I actually have both my personal email and my work email open, and I will just G-chat any one of my friends who either I work with or who is in my network for help for something. And so the ability for you guys to be using these mediums as an opportunity to ask for help is a really cool opportunity. So make sure that you don't have to just add more work on. How can you use social media to do the work you're currently doing smarter and already be engaging with it? The second thing I'll add is to your point, is that I think one thing that we need to address in government is that it's not the hierarchical structure means that it's not going to be as compelling for a young person who's, they're looking at YouTube, they're looking at all this startup culture, and they want to rise fast, or they want to do big things fast. And oftentimes in government, it's a little bit slower. So one main thing we need to address here is, how do we make working in government more sexy? And I think that you start to do that by creating these opportunities to be the voice of your department on social media, as Aja said, and be willing to open up that opportunity for anyone in the office. For the people who might not see it as more work, but might see it as an opportunity to either get ahead or do something more, to do something really substantive.
That was a great question. I can't help myself. I have to weigh in on it for 10 seconds. And we got a 5-minute or extra 5-minute reprieve, so I'm going to take up 1 minute of that. I think, to your point, for any organization starting out, and even I think everyone up there would attest to this, even organizations that are still doing it, even like an organization like that San Francisco and Ron's still fighting for positions, that's real. I do see, when I talk to my fellow CIOs and policymakers around the country about this, you have to make the tools available, which a lot of you are doing. You have to create that safe environment and provide people training so they want to use the tools, right? So they know how to use them. Because a lot of us, we're older in government, right? We're hearing about the millennial generation. I feel like I'm in a car where the odometer just rolled over or something. I was talking about X and Y generations a few years ago. Now we're to C or something. And I missed when we went by Z. But, more it's a culture change. Because I hear this all the time from you, whether we're talking about open data or social media. I always hear people say, well, where am I going to get the staff for that? Where am I going to get the staff to do social media? Where am I going to get the staff to do open data? To me, there's an element of that, sure. I mean, there's some core champions or core staff you need to lead the charge and to make sure there's a continuity to it and it goes forward. But really, it's a culture change for each of your organizations, right, where it has to become part of how you interact with the public at all layers of your organization. That's when somebody asked a really good question. I think it was our keynote speaker, how many people would be comfortable with their staff sending out a tweet that they didn't review, was kind of how I read the question. I think I saw 3 hands go up, because that's how we are hierarchical as a government. It's like, no, the lower level people, they need to filter that up to the chain of command, and I will send out the official email. Right? That's the big change I'm trying to create in my organization. It's like, look, you need to communicate more. Don't wait for me to communicate on your behalf. You need to use Twitter. You need to use Facebook. Our customers are upset because they're not getting that instant response. They're having to wait a week while you're on vacation for it to filter up to some unknown person to get back to them. You need to be more responsive. And so I think part of your role as leaders is to start to create that cultural shift. It's okay to communicate. And they're going to do it wrong sometimes. But you have to create that environment again where if it's an honest mistake, where somebody's tried and provide good service and they make an honest mistake, you have to create that environment where social media allows that. Okay, sorry, that was my little editorial. So I'll go way to the back this time, because otherwise I'm never going to get back to the back. So sorry, the middle of the room just got cut out of that hole.
Okay, can you even see me back here? I come from the private sector. I worked for Patch.com out of media, and now I've come over to the public sector. One of the things that strikes me, based on actually what John just brought up, has to do with best practices for guidelines for employees. Because if you feel confident about your employees tweeting and Facebooking and the like, what kind of guidelines do they have? Do you have best practices to offer?
Sure. We worked with, in San Francisco, we actually made it very simple. I mean, technically, if it's not part of your job description, then if you're in government, then you should not be using these for your social activities. And it's already written in the Code of Ethics for Employees or Employees Handbook or whatever. So unless you're my staff or whatever, we have an official reason to be on Facebook, then there really is no different. That's kind of how we move forward. So just like if you have a city-issued phone, it's supposed to be used for city purposes only, technically. Same thing with the computer, it's supposed to be for city business. I know that, and I know you have a story to tell in San Mateo, which is very interesting. We don't filter it, but we just something that we manage because we are social media is now engraved in every single one of our departments. It's fine to go and check and check on other departments, in which we do all the time. But just like you're not supposed to be going, on different sites, it's part of the policy is already written for that kind of activity for us. And our city attorney concurred with that advice.
And we also have worked with our county council to develop guidelines in terms of what legally can and cannot be posted, as well as some best practices for our employees about the types of content that they should be posting on their personal accounts related to their work, as well as if they're posting from a work account. So I think on the legal side, we're working on that and are pretty well covered. In addition, I think it's helpful to have a content strategy that's communicated to your team. If you get that in place, then you have folks who are potentially composing original tweets and posting them, but they know that they're fitting in with a vision or a content strategy and reflecting the goals and the mission of the organization. So I think that can be helpful. And then finally, in our county, we have used a couple of tools that allow Facebook posts and tweets to go through an approval process, so they can be composed by a member of staff or an intern or whomever really, and then kind of submitted, and then they're approved by a communications director or a PIO. And so that is sort of has worked well when we're kind of getting our feet wet and don't yet have all the pieces in play. We can get on social media and still be in the process of training staff and ramping people up. And it's a nice kind of intermediate tool and keeps us on message.
The one thing I'll have here, and I have a link, is if you go to the socialcity.org, there's actually a handbook that Code for America created for the city of Honolulu when we were working with them in 2013. And so you can go there and you can find out how to get started. In terms of policy, I couldn't agree with Aja more, and I think it reflects what John was saying about, don't force your employees to ask for permission. Ask them to beg for forgiveness when they screw up. And if you can effectively create that content strategy that they know where they need to fit into, they can up their response times. The other resource that I'll mention here is that Desiree Paterkin-Bell, who is the communications director for Mayor Nutter in Philadelphia, helped author a social media policy in that city. And if you guys don't have social media policies, both citywide or department-wide, it's a really great template that I'd urge you guys to look at. So both a link to get started, socialcity.org, as well as a best practice policy is from Philadelphia. You can just Google it, Philly social media policy. It could help get you guys started from what I know.
And I'll just put a plug in for Glenn Levy and a presentation he's doing later today. This is to bring you back after lunch. You want to create that environment where people feel safe to post, where they want to post, but you want to give them that training and tools, right? So they're not getting themselves in legal trouble or putting your organization at risk. And if you do all these things, if you read these guides and you set policies and you provide the training and some of the things Glenn will talk about this afternoon, I think you can create that environment where people feel like they have some training and some guidelines and some guidance so they know how to do it appropriately, right? I think we maybe have time for one more question to wrap it up before we let you go for lunch. Any one last question? Oh, there we go, a hand shot up.
Thank you for all the tips. I'm wondering if it's a big no-no to just blast the same message out on all platforms, or do you need to tailor it to each one slightly differently, which would take more time?
We use a tool, so for our main SFGov, if it goes out on Facebook, it automatically goes out to Twitter. Normally it's relevant, so we actually do have to craft it like we're using Twitter at all times, so it fits the characters. But depending, again, BART strike, we can blast because that affects everyone. But things that are just more, to individual departments and their fan base or friends or whatever they call them now. What are they, friends still or fans or fans? Fans. You could still cater it that way. The one thing I will tell you, the worst thing that you can do, and I say this all the time, is that do not misspell a word. Typos are horrible, and people will call you out on it, and it'll destroy your day. It will make, you dumb city employee, you can't spell, and you get all these comments, and your whole weekend is ruined. And it's like, and you can delete them now, but it still goes to a stream, and you get these people. I.e., my last name is Vinson, not Vison. So there's a misspelling, right? That's what made me remind it, because my name is misspelled. That's at Ron Vinson, Vinson. So those kind of things, it's like the public is brutal, so don't typo, no typos.
Last thoughts, Asia and Jack?
I mean, I agree. I think you can definitely save time by posting across platforms. But I think keeping in mind, if you do have audiences that are really different on different platforms, and you can look at analytics and see these things, then it might be worth taking that into account, and it might be worth the extra time for your organization if you have really distinct groups. And then also if you're using platforms that kind of push your content in a specific way. So if you're using Instagram or Pinterest, you have to really be thinking photos. With Twitter, photos are sort of less of a big thing. Mm-hmm. So if you kind of get into those platforms, then you may need to strategize about how you're going to optimize your use of them. But I don't think it's like never cross-post or anything. You can do that.
The one thing I would add here is I think you're totally right about public safety, public service announcements. These are the kinds of things that can be similar across all platforms because you really just want to get the word out there. If it's something where you're asking people for feedback on something or you're asking them for help, then I think it makes total sense to, again, be consistent with the tone that you've created on the platform. I mean, if you were going on a date with someone, you wouldn't just go and read the same script every time, right? You would not have any more dates. You want to cater it towards the person that's sitting across the table from you. And what's so great about all the analytical tools is that you can see who's responding and what they're responding to, and you can hone the messages on that platform. So there's nothing wrong with cross-posting, but I do think that if you want something, then you should definitely hone it to your audience.
Well, I think that brings us to our timeline. I want to make sure we get you out here and get you a quick break before you hear the rest of the great presentation. So I'd like to thank the panel. Please continue to connect with all of them. I think they have some great information. So thank you all very much.